Shawn Levy, welcome to On Film with Kevin McCarthy.
I am so happy to be here, Kevin.
I am.
Literally, you were that guy. I know it's not a show about you, but you were that guy on a movie junket where you're doing 50 interviews in a day, 2-3 minutes each. But every time I ever had you, and I think we met maybe on Free Guy,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, this guy's level of engagement, the intelligence, and the authentic passion about movies, it came through and it stuck with me. So I'm really happy to be here on your show.
It means the world to me, and also the show was started because of people like you who have inspired me in terms of watching filmmakers who are incredible at their craft, technical and emotional storytellers, and the films that you've worked on, the people that you've worked with, and people like Ryan Reynolds are people who have really encouraged me to start a longer form show. And that's what this show is about, is diving into the craft of filmmaking. So
I do feel like movie nerddom
yeah.
is becoming a more dominant pocket in the culture.
100%.
I mean, when I think about the fact that Coogler, for instance, did a instructional video about aspect ratio that became part of the marketing for Sinners.
Yeah.
I just think it's like, oh, wow, there's others like us. There's others who love this shit as much as we do.
Well, there's a hunger for it. And I don't know, for me growing up, my film school was DVD features. So I would buy Lord of the Rings and I would learn about early motion capture with Andy Serkis. And then I would watch Robert Rodriguez's 10-minute film schools. And then I'd be on to like Tarantino or whatever I've been watching. I mean, film school in general is obviously a real thing, but there's also just watching movies.
I went to actual film school, and I still feel like half of the most important things I learned were from the DVD, like laser discs, Criterion Collection laser discs. I remember watching the Martin Scorsese one. It was on Raging Bull, and it was explaining that Steadicam stepping off the crane shot. And that was my first sense of, oh, wow, the complexity of preparation that goes into things we then take for granted on screen. That's such a beautiful hidden art and aspect of this job. But let's jump in. I'm happy to be here.
To your point, though, it's also beautiful is the emotional and narrative reasons why shots are done. Like, they're not done to look cool. Like, Scorsese is doing a shot in Raging Bull because it's narratively driven, and we'll dive into that as well. But welcome to the show. And so I created this like mock ticket stub because I collected ticket stubs since I was a kid. So this is a fake ticket, but the date on here is the date that Terminator 2 Judgment Day opened in theaters, which is July 3rd, 91. My favorite movie of all time. It changed the way I viewed movies. I was 8 years old. I watched it sitting between my parents, and it was like one of those really remarkable experiences where I realized the power of movies and storytelling, because filmmakers are magicians, right? It's like we're immersed into their world. I was curious for you, what was that pivotal movie that you saw at a younger age that kind of maybe even subconsciously became the thing that...
It's such a cliche answer, but it's an extra poignant answer because of what I'm doing right now. It was Star Wars. It was 1977. And I just remember, I mean, I loved Star Wars. I loved Empire. But boy, I must have been somewhere in my adolescence for Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Is that 84, 83?
I think
or
so.
84?
I think it's 83. That's my favorite of the trilogy.
Let me tell you something. People, I have not said this out loud because everyone's like, which Star Wars movie is Starfighter the most like? Which is it the most inspired by? If I'm being honest, I know the cool answer would be Empire.
Sure.
And sort of the inarguable answer would be New Hope.
Yeah.
But it's kind of Jedi. It's Jedi because the combination of theme, levity, adventure, heart, spectacle, somehow that movie just got it right for me. And I saw that movie so many times in the theater, more times in the theater than New Hope and Empire, and it stuck with me. And I will tell you, there's moments on, I know we're not talking Starfighter yet, but there's moments where I'm on set and I feel like that kid is with me in the director's chair. Like I'm there making his dream come true.
It's absolutely incredible. And so we are going to get into briefly Starfighter. Obviously, no spoilers at all because you are filming that right now. But you bring up something that's fascinating to me. I am a fan of a lot of threes in the trilogies of movies. And for me, Return of the Jedi, which I think is actually my favorite opening of all of the Star Wars films. I love Back to the Future 3. I love Return of the King. Are you, like, I think it's timing, right? Because I saw Back to the Future 3 before I saw 1 and 2.
Well, it is timing. The truth is, when you're doing a movie, I mean, this applies to Stranger Things 5 too.
Yeah.
When you are telling a story that has the benefit of legacy connection between the audience and the characters, you're sort of like on second base already, right? When I look at like Deadpool and Wolverine, that became a love letter to Fox Marvel. So absolutely, we were telling an original story, a new story about Deadpool and Wolverine, but we were also able to tap into years of legacy storytelling,
which we see in your credits at the end.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's where we just decided to make an overt love letter to that legacy. It's why Endgame is such a superior audience experience. But that took, what, 10 years and how many movies to earn that on your left final sequence. And it's something that we've thought about on Stranger Things. It's something you've seen us use, for instance, in an episode I directed on Dear Billy last season, when Max is stuck with Vecna and he's got his hand up to her face and she's thinking about her friends. And it goes into that retrospective, that remembering of times that she was happy with Lucas, with Eleven, etc. It's a way of mining that audience connection with those characters. And so I don't know about rule of threes, because the truth is, as I contemplate, for instance, okay, how do we make another Deadpool movie? Sequels are hard. They are dauntingly hard. I made 3 night museums. It kicked my ass every time because you don't want to be complacent. You don't want to repeat yourself, but you want to give them some of what they love. Right. And so, having seen how the sausage of sequels is made, I find the whole subject a little stressful because you want to get it right.
And we're going to dive into all of this. And you mentioned Night at the Museum because we're going to mention Alan Silvestri later on in this podcast as well, one of the greatest composers of all time. Let's timestamp where we are right now. Today is November 8th. We are here talking specifically about Stranger Things Season 5, which is premiering 11/26 on Netflix. But you are also filming a Star Wars film as we speak. And I know you can't say a lot. You've posted some photos to Instagram. We've seen
2, I think, to be exact.
Right.
And do you know the thing about those 2 photos?
So the one of them is with Ryan on the Mediterranean Sea.
They're both of Ryan with this kid that we discovered in Ireland named Flynn Gray. One of them was at sea in the Mediterranean, and the other one was leaning up against a speeder in this garage.
It's like a dark photo.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the weird thing about those photos, someone asked me, like, is Lucasfilm and Disney extra controlling with Star Wars? What's weird is neither photo was planned. Both were literally, one was at the camera test, and the other was we're shooting at sea. And it was just 2 spontaneous moments where I looked up and I was like, wait, that is an awesome image. Can I take a picture, you guys? And I took a picture on my phone. And then I sent it to Disney. And Kathy Kennedy was there with me. She's on location with me. I'm like, can I share this with the world? And so, like, someone asked me, is it all very calculated, what you're showing when? No, those were the only 2 images I've shared so far were motivated and inspired by just looking up and seeing something that felt magic to me.
You're present.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the key, right? In fact, as a sort of an illustration of a broader principle, what you hope for every day when you're making a movie is something you didn't plan, something that surprises you. And I, for one, need to go into a shoot day prepared, but mostly it's that the preparation allows me to be loose on the day. And if you're loose, that's when you can be open to surprises. And any title you mention, I bet you I can name a moment in the movie that defined a certain section of that movie that wasn't planned. I do think that being open to the unplanned is a really good rule of thumb for directing.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. And obviously, it's those happy accidents. Necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, you think about Jaws, for example, that became the movie it became because of the problems they were up against.
I just saw a Guillermo del Toro interview where he talks about, wasn't it going to be Andrew Garfield?
Yes.
Was going to be his monster. Yeah. And someone said, well, when that didn't work out and it's a Lordy, he's like, there are no accidents. And it's all about embracing what circumstance throws at you and finding a way. I mean, we're both friendly with Ryan Reynolds, who famously tells the story of counting bullets in Deadpool as a solve for budget limitations. Yeah. And I'd say on most of my movies, there was something unexpected. On Starfighter, it was, we had a whole different idea for something in the 3rd act, and then things didn't align, and I was forced to come up with a new idea. And I'm literally right now shooting that section of the movie.
Wow.
And every day I'm grateful that the way I was supposed to do it didn't work out.
Wow.
Because the new idea that it forced me to explore is so much better than the original idea would have been.
How are you feeling at this exact? I know you
jet lagged is the short answer.
Yeah, but I mean, but to I imagine you, like you said a little bit ago, like that kid version of you watching Star Wars and now directing your own Star Wars film. You've been on major sets. Deadpool and Wolverine was a massive set. You've done major films. This one has to feel a little different, I have to imagine.
It does feel different. It's harder and a more unique pressure than any other movie you could make. Because you go into it understanding how deeply emotional the connection with audiences is. Now, you could argue that's true of Marvel, that's true of other franchises, but nothing is as religious an allegiance as Star Wars. And so the pressure, self-inflicted mostly, to get it right, that's intense. And I'll admit to you, the first few weeks of shooting, it felt like this oppressive sort of this cloud over me, because every day, they would come to me. It's 100 questions a day. And especially with Starfighter, it's not a sequel. It's not a prequel. It is not legacy characters, and it's not in a period of time in the galaxy that's ever been explored.
It's 5 years after
right? 9, after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But what this means is that we are inventing everything in this movie. And the desire to make design choices, character choices, planet choices, costume choices, droid choices, alien choices, all of it needs to feel Star Wars-y. But I am freaking determined to not let any of it feel derivative or lazily copycat. And I'll say, so far, the encouragement I've gotten from Disney and from Kathy Kennedy and Lucasfilm to forge new ground. It's been the one constant ever since I gave them an outline of this idea that Jonathan Tropper and I cooked up.
Who's a longtime collaborator.
Yes, I've done several movies with him. He wrote The Atom Project, among other things.
This Is Where I Leave You.
This Is Where I Leave You. He did a movie. He wrote a movie I produced with Ed Harris and Sudeikis called Kodachrome. But again, it all started, and I know we're all over the place.
No, so this is okay, man. We're
I
two
hope
nerds,
this format's
man.
okay.
We're geeking out.
But literally, I was editing. I was editing All the Light We Cannot See. We were still trying to craft story on Deadpool Wolverine, and it was August of 2022. I can't remember if it was before or after the fateful call from Hugh Jackman that cracked open that movie, but it was Kathleen Kennedy. And I'm like, hi, Kathleen Kennedy. And I knew her a little bit because I was one of probably 50 directors who raised their hand with interest 9-10 years ago when Disney first acquired Lucasfilm. And she called and she said, I want you to do Star Wars. And I said, which one? And she said, anyone you want. And I said, right, but like which character, what movie is it connecting to? She goes, make it original. You pick the writer, you pick the story, just make it feel like a Shawn Levy movie. Make it warm-hearted and fun and built for audience delight. That was the only mandate. And so I picked Jonathan Tropper. We came up with a new story from scratch, and we created these characters. And at every step, I have to say, the encouragement we're getting to embrace the new. And then we went to Star Wars Celebration in Tokyo, maybe it was April. And the excitement I felt in that place, not only around Gosling, who is just the shit. He's so cool.
So good.
With all love and respect to my other handsome Canadian Ryan. Gosling is, he's a remarkable talent, and he's never done a franchise. And so it just felt very sort of interesting to pair him in the Star Wars galaxy. But what I also felt in that room is this thirst among the fans for something different, something new. So that's my everyday North Star that I'm chasing.
Can't wait. I'm so excited. Claudio Miranda, I want to shout out as well, who's your DP on the film. I cannot wait. Who's scoring it?
Thomas Newman.
Yo,
No, I know, bro.
Me?
I know, bro.
Oh my gosh.
I literally
wait.
Yeah, I don't know
What?
if that's public, so now it is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we're breaking news here on film with Kevin McCarthy.
Damn right. I love
Tom
Thomas
Newman, you understand? Like,
Oh my
if
gosh.
you ask me to name my favorite scores,
Oh gosh.
5 of the top 10 are Tom Newman.
Oh yeah.
Shawshank, Road to Perdition, Nemo, American Beauty.
Yeah.
The guy is a maestro. And I was thinking about this movie and what I need the music to be, because it wants to be sort of classically inspired, but no, it's not going to be remixes of Williams cues. It may be inspired by some of that, but I knew that I need a big-hearted movie score from a composer who, like John Williams, doesn't shy away from themes. In other words, you know, every movie should have a musical theme. Deadpool and Wolverine has it. Adam Project, I think every movie needs it.
And Rob did an amazing job on
Agreed.
Deadpool,
And
Wolverine.
Simonson is phenomenally did Adam Project and Deadpool and Wolverine. But what John Williams sort of embraces is a movie can have multiple themes. And so he speaks of this, there was Leia's theme. There was the Force theme, known as Binary Sunset. There's the Imperial March. So not shying away from myriad musical signatures that help tell the narrative alongside and in addition to the words and the images. So I called up Tom Newman. You understand, like, I'm a fan. Like, the way you reacted, that's how I feel too, Kevin. And I said, hey, it's Shawn Levy. Would you ever consider? And he said, send me the script and describe your vision. And I did both those things, and it was yes.
Dude.
It was yes. And I'm so stoked.
That just made my whole day.
Good.
Seeing you outside and giving you a hug was one level. That just leveled up the entire day for me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited
What
about
a brilliant choice. All right, so let's get to the reason why you're here. Stranger Things season 5, you famously have directed episodes 3 and 4 of all the first 4 seasons, and now you're directing episode 6 and co-directing episode 7
with the Duffer Brothers.
I know you've talked a lot about the initial idea of how this all came about, but because we are at the end in a way, go back to 2015 and that meeting with the Duffer Brothers and kind of...
I'm going to go one step further back. So in 2014, I released the last of my Night at the Museum movies. And while I was editing that movie, Robin Williams passed away. And it was a take stock moment for me. I had done I feel like I'd done 8 movies in 9 years.
Yeah.
It was something psychotic and there was something a little relentless about it. And I decided to take a breath and say no to things. And definitely say no to the things that were getting offered to me every day, which is if it was a family targeted comedy adventure, I was getting offered.
Right, and for people listening, Cheaper by the Dozen, Big Fat Liar, Just Married,
and all the Night at the Museum movies.
Pink Panther.
Exactly. So I had done, now the good news is they were all hits.
Yeah.
But they were all sort of within a certain genre.
Yeah.
But
they made a lot. Just Married did like $100 million.
And even Big Fat Liar, which cost like $14 million, made, I don't know, 60 something. They were all profitable.
I miss those movies, by the way.
Well, we could do a whole other episode about the death of the family genre.
Yeah, I missed that.
Because there are no, maybe you could argue that Jumanji was a live action family film, but that was IP based.
Yeah.
A movie like Big Fat Liar, a movie like Night at the Museum, based on nothing that anyone knew. Just a big wish fulfillment idea. Those movies did teach me, by the way, that when you're assessing a script, and I'll connect it to Stranger Things in a moment, it's easy to get distracted and fall in love or reject based on dialogue. What I learned, especially when I read Night at the Museum, is you gotta see through the dialogue. You gotta sometimes see through the writing to the idea. Because a big, resonant, collective wish fulfillment idea, that's the rarest thing in the world. I think that's what Free Guy had. That's what Adam Project had. What if you could spend time with your younger self and your dad or mom when they were your age? So I'm always looking for that big idea. But 2014, I released the last of those movies and I started saying no. And in that moment, Arrival took shape, and this script came along.
You got nominated for an Oscar for
We got nominated for a bunch, including Best Picture, and I was in that crazy Oscar night when they announced La La Land as the winner.
That's right.
And then they changed. I mean, I'll never forget. The energy in that room was psychotic.
Wow.
But Arrival was deeply gratifying. The outcome was great. But again, just nurturing a fellow filmmaker for 5 years, developing that script with Dan Levine and Dan Cohen at 21 Laps, tapping Denis when he had never done genre.
It's his masterpiece.
I don't even know that Prisoners had come out. It was off of Incendie when we first met him. And yet he said, I think I could do sci-fi. Cut to now, a decade later, he's the maestro of our time.
Third Dune right now.
And like Dune, Blade Runner 20, he is the greatest sci-fi director working.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I decided I'm going to give energy to my company, 21 Laps. And Dan Cohen, who was someone who worked for me then, said, you got to read this TV script. And I said, we're not in the TV business. And he's like, trust me. I read this script called Montauk. It was one of the best scripts I've ever read. The next, and immediately I was like, bring in these twins. Who are these Duffer brothers? And the next day, there's these two 30-year-old twin brothers who were socially awkward and clearly brilliant. And I said to them, I don't know who's going to want this. I don't know who it's for. I just know it's too good for me to not raise my hand to help. So whatever you need me to be, that's what I'm going to be for you. I need to get this into the world. And so a lot of places passed. We walked into Netflix, and it wasn't just by this show, by being produced by a movie director and being created and showrun by these two guys who had never done that. It was also, and also the Duffers are going to direct every episode. And that was the plan. But then early on, as we're filming season 1, it became clear that the brothers were never going to have time to write the second half of the season if they directed every episode. So really as like a problem-solving gesture, I said, guys, do you want me to direct a couple episodes? You go back to LA, go into writer hibernation, finish the season. And that's what happened. And it led to that Christmas Lights episode. It led to the Demogorgon coming through the wall and so many things that became a part of culture. But frankly, on a more personal note, and I said this at the premiere the other night, the brothers' writing brought into my creative life something I'd never done. Directing genre, directing total non-comedy. And it revealed to me muscles I didn't know I had, and a creative appetite that I didn't know I had. And it changed me forever. I mean, yes, the success of the show changed my career, but what it opened up in me as a director and as a storyteller, I trace a line from that, directing season 1, episodes 3 and 4, to now being on the set where I'll be again tomorrow on Star Wars. Is it broadened my creative horizon in a way that I will forever be grateful to the Duffer Brothers.
And so I want to take that personal connection a little deeper, because one of the big themes of Stranger Things is these kids have to grow up faster than they're ready to. At a younger age, something insane happens in their world and they have to grow up fast, right? I was curious, maybe there's two parts to this question. Do you remember a moment when you were a kid that you had to grow up faster than you were ready for? And then do you remember that answer as a filmmaker? So maybe we'll start off as a kid first.
Really good question, unsurprisingly. So my mom she was an alcoholic. And so I think I felt like a parent and savior to my mom from the time I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And so I grew up fast. I had to grow up fast. And part of me, because I don't, as you know, neither me nor my movies sit in dark places.
Yeah.
And I am trying to live and make things that are filled with light. And I believe when I look at everything I make, I keep coming back to kids and childhood.
Yeah.
From Cheaper by the Dozen, through Stranger Things, through Starfighter.
Are you finding catharsis in your own childhood?
Yes.
Wow.
I think that I am trying to put in my movies a feeling about childhood that I didn't have as much as I needed when I was in my own childhood.
So you're kind of getting it through cinema.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So when I say my 10-year-old self is on the set of Star Wars with me every day, I mean that sincerely and in a very profound way, because the feeling of joy and wish fulfillment and connection and laughter, these were things that I didn't always feel in my real childhood. So I find myself making movies that create those feelings for myself and for audiences. And I do connect it to that backstory.
What's the growing up moment on a film set where you had to grow up faster than you were ready for as a filmmaker and a director?
Oh, man. I think it's okay to tell this story, but this was absolutely the defining day of my career. We're filming Night at the Museum 1. And there's a scene where the sarcophagus is shaking, and it says in the script, Larry Daly, the night guard, opens the lid of the sarcophagus. And the pharaoh sits up, and it's Rami Malek as Akhmenra. And I'm rehearsing the scene, and you've got 120 people standing around. And Ben's like, so how do I open the lid? And I was like, well, it says here that you lift it. He's like, no, I know what it says in the script, but like, what's that lid made of? And I'm like, styrofoam painted gray. He's like, right, but in the story, what's it made of? I'm like, stone, probably stone. He's like, so conservatively, that's 2 tons? I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. He's like, so it doesn't really make sense for me to lift the lid, right?
Ben Stiller's talking.
Ben is talking. Ben Stiller's saying this. And he's asking legit questions.
Yeah.
But I am fucking freaking out because he is, in that moment, unearthing something that I didn't properly prep.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think it through. And there is no feeling worse than being caught off guard in the middle of a shoot. And so I went back to my trailer and I was like, think. And I came in because I knew in that moment, this they'll never teach you in film school. The job is leadership. And if you lose that actor and if you lose that crew, they're lost. And it is no longer the kind of leadership.
So you felt that being lost?
I knew that this was a decisive moment, that I either solve this or I reveal a lack of preparation that embarrassed me. And so I knew that an answer was required. And so I walked back in and I go, okay, here's the deal. So it's a magic pharaoh come back to life, what with the magic tablet of Akhmenra and everything. So with that superhuman strength, the lid gets flung up and he sits up and it crashes against the wall and you have to grab your son, Nicky Daly, out of the way. And he sits up and it gives this kinetic, explosive energy to the scene. And that's how we're going to do it. And I look over on one side of the set and it's my entire visual effects department, like ghost-faced, because nothing I just said has been planned for. But I looked to the other side, and there's my actor. He's like, that's cool. Let's do it. And I had him. And I had the reins back in my hands.
Wow.
That's the day I grew up. And ever since then, I don't go to work if I am not rigorously ready and 10 backup plans in my head. And I'm really grateful to that day. So I literally will never forget that sarcophagus day. Because that's when I realized, you got to have a plan that you've thought through thoroughly, but you got to be prepared to think on your feet too.
The thing I think about a lot when you tell that story is also Ben Stiller's attention to detail, because he's also a director.
I mean, Ben has not made a bad anything, whether it's Severance or Reality Bites or Tropic Thunder. Like, the guy is just a beast of a talent.
Who else has asked you questions like that?
Reynolds.
Like, he'll say
here's the truth. The great stars, like, they don't show up, toe the mark, and say the lines. They are creative partners. Steve Martin was my first. We did 2 movies together I was in my early 30s. Cheap Bride a Dozen, Pink Panther. For instance, one day we're on the set of Pink Panther, and I'm like, hey, Steve, what if you come in and you take off your coat and you put it on the coat rack, but then you start wrestling with the coat rack? And Steve said to me, that's a funny idea for Jim Carrey. And I go, what do you mean?
Oh, interesting.
He goes, you need the idea to match the performer. You need to align the tone of the idea with the tone that is the superpower of the performer. So when I went on to Tina Fey and Steve Carell in Date Night, when I went on to Ben Stiller in Night Museum, Ryan Reynolds in Free Guy, and now Ryan Gosling in Star Wars, I'm always thinking about the alignment of my job is to make that performer, to set them up for success, to tee them up to win and to score. So I got to sort of not come up with what I might think is the best idea objectively. How is that idea going to be dramatized and manifested by that performer? And so I don't know how to do the job without getting, as I was talking to you earlier, intimately enmeshed with my actor or actress so that I can flow them and then they're flowing me. And it's this loop. I just watched the Scorsese documentary.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man,
I've heard it's amazing.
Just trust me.
I need to see it.
You will love it. But
this is on Apple.
It's on Apple. Rebecca Miller directed it, and it's a great doc. It's not just a sort of biography. It deep dives into the process and the nature of the work. But one thing it talks about is he never shied away from making true partners of his actors, especially De Niro and DiCaprio. And guess what? If a new idea walks in the door on that day, you might have planned for X, Y, and Z, but you know what? Why not try B and C? What's the worst thing that could happen? It sucks. Guess what? More than half the time, it's going to make that scene. And I'm finding that on Starfighter with Gosling. I found it on every movie that's worked in my career, is if you view your actors as real creative partners, you get the best of them and they get the best out of you.
It's incredible. It really is incredible to hear that. And, you know, kind of going back to score for a second, we talk about Thomas Newman.
I know. I feel like you haven't heard a word I've said since I've
heard everything.
The news of Tom Newman.
No, I've heard everything. But back to Thomas Newman, just because I want to talk about score in general. You've had incredible composers that you've worked with. Christoph Beck, who's a longtime collaborator.
Yep.
Alan Silvestri on Night at the Museum. Rob Simonson, we talked about as well. You've always balanced score and soundtrack in a very unique way.
And it needs to be, I mean, Ryan Reynolds talks a lot about this. It's something I've always said, you got to listen to the movie.
Right. And this was the story you told about Real Steel with Danny Elfman.
Wow. Should we share it here?
Yeah, share it. Yeah, this is a great story because this was one of those pivotal moments of listening to your movie.
Yes. But I'm a student of the game like you.
Yeah.
And I love getting wisdom from people better and more experienced than me. And on Real Steel, there was always this sort of, I knew it would be a signature scene.
By the way, can I just pause for a second?
Sure.
The amount of movies you're listing that you've directed, it's like, I know all these, but like the genres that you've jumped in and out of, sometimes a lot of filmmakers stay in one lane. It's remarkable. Every time you name a movie you've directed, I'm like, that's right. He's directed all of these films. I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, you have a phenomenal filmography, man. It's insane.
I'll just say that's not an accident.
That's nuts.
That's because I love so many different kinds of movies. So I always wanted to make so many different kinds of movies. And my favorite directors, Spielberg, Peter Weir, Ron Howard, populist filmmakers who make beautifully crafted movies, but don't allow themselves to be limited to one genre. So that's always been important to me. But Real Steel, there's the scene in front of the motel where Hugh Jackman at dawn is shadow training Adam, the robot. And I always, when we filmed that scene, I played this track by Explosions in the Sky. It was used in Friday Night Lights, and it's this kind of guitar. It's a pre-existent track of music. And I always told Danny Elfman, I'm going to use this song here. I'm going to probably use that song here. And he said to me, the song works, but if you want people to be out of their seats moved in round 5 of Zeus versus Adam at the end of this movie, you got to give me real estate along the way to the final act.
So it hits.
So that I'm training their ear with theme.
Subconsciously.
I'm training their ear with theme. I am planting seeds of the theme so that when it is blooming with full orchestration at the end of the movie, it is hitting them in their heart because their ear is hooked into it.
You earned it.
You earned it. And you built a relationship between the viewer and the musical theme. And so he said, this song could work in that scene, but if you don't let me plant seeds here in the second act, I can't promise you it delivers in the third. I never forgot that. And so I've been so lucky with these composers I worked with. Alan Silvestri, who I did all 3 Night at the Museum movies with. And I'll tell you something else, like Elfman, Silvestri, guys who are legends, who you would think, oh, they just send you the music and that's the music. No, they'll do a sketch of a theme 10 times until I love it.
Wow.
The greatest thing is to see in these veterans, these legendary veterans, the work ethic and the tenacity to get it right. And getting it right, as Tom Newman just said to me a few days ago, I could love a cue, he said, but if you don't love it, we're not there yet because you're the filmmaker.
Can't wait to hear
so
this.
I need to nail themes that we both love and that serve the movie. Not that they're beautiful in space, in a vacuum. Are they beautiful and poignant and evocative to this picture in this moment? And speaking of just wisdom that I remember, Alan Silvestri, it's the second Night Museum movie, and it's the end of the movie where Amy Adams as Amelia Earhart kisses Ben Stiller, and she says, "You've given me the adventure of a lifetime in a single night, and I have a feeling it's going to be a beautiful sunrise." Because she knows her death is at sunrise.
Yeah.
And I made Alan write 15 versions of that theme. And we're on the scoring stage, and it's the moment where they kiss and they play the music, and I go, Alan, is it too much? Is it too much feeling? Is it too sort of, fastball down the middle? And he goes, Shawn, this is what we do. Are we making an indie art film? No. We're making a popcorn, populist movie for a global audience. Sometimes you give the people exactly what they fucking want. This is the business we are in. Yeah. And so I also, sometimes when I get in my own head and I'm trying to overthink it or make the cool choice, I remember Alan Silvestri saying that. And it's taken me a lot of years, but now I'm really at peace knowing the kind of movies that I love making, that I know how to make. And I think it's why I'm doing work that is the most gratifying to me of my career, and it's enjoying some nice success, is I'm not running from those instincts. I'm embracing them with more pride than I maybe did when I was a younger director.
It's beautiful. Your Danny Elfman story brings up a point that I want to bring up that I think about a lot. I was lucky enough in 2011, I sit down with Steven Spielberg for the first interview I'd ever did with him. It was for War Horse. And War Horse was a PG-13 film, and it had war sequences. So my question ended up being what is the difference in directing R-rated war sequences like Saving Private Ryan versus PG-13 war sequences like War Horse? And his answer, to paraphrase, basically came down to this idea that I can still show you a war sequence without showing you the blood and gore, and I allow the audience to collaborate with me and fill that in. And I always think of Fincher's Seven as well. We don't see any of the deaths in that movie. We see the aftermath and we fill it in. How much are you thinking about the audience in terms of their collaboration with you, like when you make a film? And can you think of a specific scene, maybe in Deadpool, Wolverine, or any movie you've made where you go, I'm reaching out to the audience here to collaborate with me in this moment so we can both share this experience. I don't want to hand feed this. Let's work together.
Well, I think about the audience constantly.
Yeah.
Some filmmakers make a movie because that's the way they want to make it. I make movies for audience. And so part of me is always sitting there in that theater with them.
Yeah.
And the great irony of, we talk about Big Fat Liar and Cheap by the Dozen. In 100 lifetimes, if you had told me that I would have the most successful R-rated movie ever made, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing that road led me to Deadpool and Wolverine, where you can say anything and show anything, and we did. Whereas with Star Wars, with Free Guy, you don't need to show everything.
PG-13,
PG-13 movies, you know that the audience is your partner in filling in connective tissue. And you don't need to show it all for them to know or feel it all.
How much, like in PG-13, by the way, the MPA, for people who don't know, you get 1 or 2 F words in those movies. When you have that on that day on set where you get that 1 F word out, is that like, is it known in the moment? Like, okay, this is our 1 or 2 that we're getting.
What you normally do is you'll shoot 6 F words because eventually you learn, as we talked about, that you don't know what the movie's going to want. So, for instance, there's a line that I love in the Star Wars movie. I am putting it in 2 different scenes, knowing it will never be in both scenes. But I know that in post-production, the movie will tell me where it wants it. And so sometimes with those F-bombs in PG-13, you'll throw in a few knowing you get 1, but also knowing that until you put the movie together and experience it with an audience, you can't absolutely know where it will have maximum, most satisfying impact.
All right, we got about 5 or 6 minutes left, so I'm going to hit you with one big question and then a couple rapid fires, and then we're out of here. You've seen the movie Babylon, Damien Chazelle's movie. Do you remember the scene in Babylon when Brad Pitt walks into Gene Smart's office at the end? And this is about the time period where we're going from the silent era to talkies, and Brad Pitt's character is essentially kind of being, phased out of the business, and he's really sad about it. And Gene Smart writes this article about it, and she's essentially trying to comfort him in the moment. And she says to him, in 100 years, essentially, someone's going to turn on one of your movies and you're going to flicker back to life. And it's this idea of the work that you do as a filmmaker is immortalized in cinema past our own lives. So in 100 years, someone's going to turn on Stranger Things, Deadpool, Wolverine, Big Fat Liar, and your vision as a director is going to come back to life. And I'm just curious what that means to you to know that, not to be dark, but once you're gone.
No, and it's a really good question, Kevin. I never ever thought of this until my 50s. And suddenly I find myself thinking about legacy. I have 4 daughters. Ultimately, that's going to be what I leave behind, and hopefully I leave a legacy of love and self-esteem and all the things that we've tried to build within our family in our girls. But I also think about the things I put into the world.
Yeah.
And the unique thing, for instance, about Stranger Things is knowing you never know when you're making something if it's going to be a forever title. Like, I didn't know Night at the Museum to this day. When I was on that press tour for Deadpool and Wolverine, I went all over the world. Everywhere they still know Night at the Museum. So you never know what are going to be the ones that hit in a ubiquitous and resonant way. But I do think about that. And the crazy thing about Stranger Things is that script walked in the door, brought the Duffers in. I just did it because I knew it was good. I didn't know if people would watch. I definitely didn't know it would be a phenom.
Imagine that moment of yourself right now thinking that. I somehow believe that the reason Stranger Things is so deeply satisfying to me is because I did it for no mercenary or calculating or strategic reasons. I only did it because it was irresistible to my heart. I needed to help the Duffer Brothers tell that story in the world. So the fact that it has become, frankly, one of the most successful original franchises in the last 25 years. And that includes movies, right? Movies and shows. There are not many things that become globally known. And now we have our show on Broadway, and now we have our animated series and all this stuff. It's remarkable, but it's extra satisfying because we didn't set out to launch a franchise. We just set out to make something great. And I feel like this franchise has been our reward for doing this for the right reasons. Okay, rapid fires. Here we go.
Let's see if I'm capable of rapid fire short answers.
Favorite score of all time?
I mean, Finding Nemo wrecks me every time.
Yeah.
And Shawshank. Those climbing strings that are soaring up there and then somehow get even more achingly up there. And I will tell you, you're going to love this. Some days, if I'm shooting certain scenes on the set of Star Wars, I play Tom Newman music during the take.
Like temp.
We just did a scene where I played Suds on the Roof, which is a cue from Shawshank Redemption. And the actors came to me and were like, whatever that was, keep playing it because I felt the feeling you want. So I often play music during a take to convey what I'm looking for in a nonverbal way.
Because that ends up being interesting in terms of editing, because temp music, but I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to hit to these real quick. Movie you've seen the most in your life? Is it Return of the Jedi?
It's probably a tie between Grease, Return of the Jedi. Yeah, Grease was big for me. Return of the Jedi, Godfather 1 and 2.
Are you a 2 or 1 guy?
I'm a 2 guy.
Me too.
I'm a 2 guy.
Me too.
Just because Michael Corleone in 2 is the baddest badass I've ever seen in a movie.
Hot take, Al Pacino's performance in 3 is the best of all 3 of them.
It deserves a rewatch from me that it's not gotten in years.
The coda cut's great.
Okay.
That scene at the end of the staircase.
You're literally invoking scenes that I don't remember. Dude, that's how long it's been. Thank you for inspiring me.
Movie you wish you could rewatch for the first time?
Gallipoli by Peter Weir.
Why?
I remember seeing it, and I had never seen something that had a final 5 minutes that destroyed me emotionally in the way that movie did, and I would love that feeling all over again.
Favorite shot of all time in cinema?
Oh,
or first one that comes to mind.
I'll give it to you, and in fact, I've replicated it twice in my career. Return of the Jedi. Luke is hiding in the shadows. Vader and the Emperor are baiting him and saying, maybe if you won't turn to the dark side, your sister will. And Luke comes out of the shadows, and he frickin' charges with that saber. And it's him and Vader in a right to left, as I recall it, head to toe tracking shot, all the way to that middle where he ends up cutting off Vader's arm. And it's this wide shot that tracks with the choreography, and it is so visceral. And the score is ascendant and powerful. And I literally replicate that shot in Deadpool and Wolverine in the
bus
void.
Scene?
Not when we're going left to right when Deadpool is fighting Wolverine in the void, and I replicate it in Night at the Museum 3 when Hank Azaria's Common Raw is fighting Ben Stiller with a flashlight as his saber. Same thing, a tracking head to toe inspired by that shot in Jedi.
This has been an honor, man.
You know what? On behalf of all of us making movies, what we hope for is to find audience that loves it and appreciates the craft behind it and the passion behind it with passion, which you do. So thank you.
Thank you. This has been an honor. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, buddy.